Farron and Brian, your weekly discussion of current events, politics, and what's happening with the federal government with respect to our economy and our military and what's happening in the news right now. We will be joined with Virginia Fox in minutes. We have confirmation on that. Brian, the protests in Iran, all over the news. One of the things that struck me about it, the protesters all holding up their signs in English. I looked it up. Less than 5% of the Iranian population speak English, so the signs are being held up for the Western media. What do you think about that?
I believe most of the Western media, if not all of it, was thrown out, wasn't it?
Well, they have discussed that, so I found that kind of interesting. Okay, we're joined with Virginia Fox. How you doing today, ma'am?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you all?
We are doing good. We have been discussing this morning Obama's regulatory reform plan, and from what we can make of it, the new rules would give the Federal Reserve the authority to regulate any company whose activity it believes threatens the economy and the markets. I wanted to begin by just asking you your opinion of President Obama's plan to give the Federal Reserve more authority over our financial institutions.
Well, I'm totally opposed to it. I just think that they're going in absolutely the wrong direction, and this man and this Congress want to gain control over every aspect of our lives, and we just don't need it. Frankly, the Federal Reserve was not set up for this kind of thing. It can't do what it's supposed to do now, and we just don't need to be giving it more authority. Our problem is not that we need more laws and more regulations. It's that we should pay closer attention to the ones that we already have.
Well, I certainly do agree with you on that. I mean, it's really scary to see what's happening with the Federal Reserve, our economy, and the government at the moment. And this past week, there was a meeting held in Russia where the president of China and the president of Russia and other top officials from the Six Nations Shanghai Cooperation Organization met to discuss the future of trading in U.S. dollars. And I wanted to get your opinion. Do you think American should be concerned that the rest of the world may soon tire of financing our massive debt and replace the dollar as the world reserve currency?
I do think that's a distinct possibility, and I am concerned. I saw a brief piece about that. I didn't have a chance to read it in depth, but I think that we have to be very concerned about it. You know, the Chinese and the Russians could take us down very easily by declaring another currency as the world currency, and I'm quite concerned about it. You know, they may not have to bomb us or fly airplanes into buildings to destroy the United States. It could be destroyed from our economic structure, and some people think that they figured that out. We're wasting all of our money on trying to protect ourselves. There's some people who think this. I'm not saying this, that we may be wasting all of our money in looking at the physical things when it may be the fiscal ways that take care of us. I don't know if they have figured that out yet or not, if the terrorists have figured it out yet, but they're pretty smart people.
And I agree with what you say 100%, Virginia. I mean, economic warfare by far is much more devastating than really any bombs or other acts of obvious aggression. We also, I had an article here, China is not buying as much U.S. bonds. They've decreased all the treasury bills they're buying substantially. And also next Thursday, we have a record treasury auction, $104 billion going on in the market. And over time, we've seen less and less interest in the purchasing of our debt. Does this worry you also?
It does, and in some cases we're buying our own debt, which is an insanity, and people don't even realize that. I mean, most people are just going on about their daily lives, not paying much attention to it. I had my radio on earlier this morning to a local station, and the guy on there who's a home builder was saying, I don't know anything about politics. I don't want to know anything about politics. And I thought about that saying from Cicero from 200 or 400 BC. You may not have an interest in politics, but politics has an interest in you. And that's the way it is. And unfortunately, our world's become very complicated. And I have to say, even people like me who are in office can't possibly stay on top of all of the things that are happening in our world. But we definitely need to be aware of the fact that we are not alone. We're not isolated. Sometimes some of us would like to be, but what's happening overseas does have an impact on us. And for too long, Americans have sort of ignored that, thinking that, we don't care what those people do over there. But we have become such an interdependent world that we have to pay attention to it. Now, it doesn't have to be that way again. We are very much, it's very much occurred because of the debt issue and because we haven't been able to take care of our own.
Well, Virginia, that's an excellent point. I mean, it makes your job extraordinarily difficult when the majority of American citizens really could care less about what's going on and really don't voice their concerns. I mean, over here in Iran, we see like a third of the population in the streets over an election. I mean, it's a shame that the same thing's not happening here in the United States, over a third of our GDP being looted by Wall Street.
You're right. And I'm distressed that we're not trying to help those people over there. We did pass a resolution yesterday in the House of sympathy with the Iranian people. Our president doesn't have the guts to stand up to support those people. And they're crying out for a democracy. We're trying to build a democracy in Iraq, and the Iranian people want a democracy, and we know that. How wonderful it would be if we could help them create a democracy there in Iran, and Iran and Iraq then could be supportive of each other. Maybe instead of competing to see who could fight each other or get each other's territory, they could be like we in Canada and see how strong an economy you could create.
We're going to be coming up on a break here in just a couple minutes, Ms. Fox, and we're hoping you can join us through the next segment. But I wanted to ask you, it was reported last week by the Charlotte Observer that banks such as J.P. Morgan and others that were given billions in the bailouts have used that money to purchase oil futures, and that is why gas is rapidly on the rise, and the middle class is, of course, being hosed again both ways. I just wanted to get your opinion on this. This was sent to us by a listener.
Well, I didn't see the article. I do know that much of my email that's coming through, a lot of my the stuff that I'm getting unsolicited, by the way, is saying buy oil futures, because we know we're heading into an inflationary period. We know it can't help but happen, and that oil prices are going to go up. People have been predicting that go up to $200. Oil would go up to $200 a barrel. These cycles occur, and you can just about predict to the day what's going to happen. So I'm concerned. I don't know about the banks doing that, but why do we think the banks would take different kind of behavior or have different kind of behavior than human beings would?
I know.
We're back on The Real News, therealnewsradio.com. We are joined by our congressional representative here in the 5th District of North Carolina, Mrs. Virginia Fox. Now, Virginia, we were just discussing oil futures and inflation. Let's go into a little about inflation, the imminent inflationary cycle we're probably going to see here very shortly, given that we've just printed up trillions of dollars in currency to try to stimulate the economy.
Well, again, I was on the floor yesterday, and I don't have my notes.